What's good, everybody, and welcome back to another beautiful episode of Andromeda. Today, we have a really special guest, Ellie, one of the co-founders of the first play-to-earn game on the blockchain, Crypto Fighters, created in 2018. Without further ado, Ellie, give us a little background about who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Yeah, sounds good. Great to be on the show. So yeah, my background, I have a computer science degree. Over the last 7 years or so, I've been working as a full stack developer. Part of that time on my own companies and projects, and part of that time working as a freelancer for other people. Yeah, and I guess we created Crypto Fighters in 2018. On that project, I both did like full stack, so React and Node work on it, and also I wrote the smart contracts that we used back then.
Awesome. So what was the ultimate inspiration behind you wanting to create Crypto Fighters? Because at the time you could say those early projects are all basically innovators. You get what I'm saying? So what inspired that to say we're going to create a project on the blockchain?
I guess the inspiration for our project, when I even learned about NFTs for the first time, was the CryptoKitties project. I think that they were also the inspiration for the Axie Infinity team. But it was around November, December 2017 or so when I started playing with CryptoKitties, and I was like, "Whoa, this is really cool." I mean, I was into blockchain at the time, the whole sort of ICO hype, and like a crypto sat there like 2017, 18. Yeah, when crypto was doing really well. And I was playing around with it, and I saw, okay, this is a cool idea. You can collect these cats on the blockchain. You can breed these cats to create new cats and sell those on. So I thought it was like a cool concept. And I basically convinced 5 of my friends. We were all working in the same co-working space at that time. I was working on a company of mine called Draft Fantasy, which is this fantasy sports platform. It still exists and is quite popular. But yeah, we basically decided we'd go work on Crypto Fighters. And that was the inspiration for it. We wanted to do something a bit different. We wanted to, I guess our concept was to create a battle game, basically. So Crypto Kitties, it was like, you just take any 2 cats, you put them together, you get a new cat. And there wasn't that much it wasn't that interesting. So we were like, okay, we'll take this concept and sort of try and take it a step further, where you could actually like compete against other people, and the result of your battle would sort of like improve your fighters, and you'd win a new fighter. And it wouldn't be guaranteed, because if you lost the fight, you wouldn't get a new fighter as a reward.
Yeah. Man, I love the concept, and it's so early in its time. I want to know what inspired the original artwork.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So Ofer is actually the person, so another team member, his name is Ofer. He was sort of more in charge of that side of it, the game design. He's actually a developer himself, and he worked with an illustrator who today is actually, he's an illustrator for Archer, for the TV show. And yeah, well, we hired him to do this work for us. And the concept as a whole was, I think Ofer used to play like a lot of League of Legends and games of that genre. And he wanted to build something sort of like, I guess, in that sort of concept. I guess it's very different, but yeah, that was sort of the feel he was going for. I think that was sort of the core inspiration.
Okay, cool. So I want to go a little bit deeper into the characters and the development. What made you guys almost pick like that realm of characters out of, you could pick anything, you get what I'm saying? The demon, the orc, like why that set of characters? How was that developed and the process behind that?
Yeah, I'm probably not the right person. I think it's just like my team member. It was just, this was a world that he thought would be cool. He plays a lot of these computer games himself, and when he was 17, I think he was even, I'm forgetting which game it was, but he was one of the best in the world at one of these games. And yeah, that was just like sort of a world he was attracted to. But at the time, it was sort of, you had a completely blank canvas in terms of games as a whole. We didn't really have, it wasn't like you had 1,000 other projects all doing these battle games. So it was really just, we could have gone in lots of different directions, and all of those directions were new and hadn't been done before. So yeah, there weren't really any limits. This is just sort of what he decided to go with.
Love it. What is your personal favorite?
Oh yeah, good question. I like the orcs.
Yeah.
Well, there's the Death Knights. It's sort of, we have like 5 sort of core races. So for people that don't know, the Death Knights are like rare. They're extremely rare. There's only 15 of them out of the set of around 5,000. They were sort of released slightly later than we started off with the original 4, and then these Death Knights were added a bit later. also in 2018, but we're sort of talking, let's say, February 2018 instead of January 2018. Yeah, I guess each of them is like cool, but like, yeah, I guess like one of my favorites is sort of these golden orcs.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I love the gold orcs, and I want to get a little bit into like the rarities and the skin colors and all that good stuff. But before we even get there, what's pretty interesting is that, speaking about the Death Knights, there's only 15 Death Knights that exist, correct? So when I first heard about the project, the first thing I tried to run to is, oh, let me try to get a Death Knight because I understood this would be the most valuable. But ultimately, I don't have the ETH for the ones that are on sale, and I'm pretty sure a smart guy wouldn't sell his Death Knight right now, while this project is kind of hitting the headline. So I definitely do, hopefully later down the line, could acquire a Death Knight. That would be absolutely amazing to add that to the collection. But why the 5,000 number? Why stop minting at 5,000?
Yeah, so we actually stopped minting after, I think it's 1771.
Okay.
So basically, yeah, the smart contract basically has written into it that we can mint up to a limit of 25,000. And originally, it's not like the mints of today. These were being released every hour or so. I think it was either once an hour or twice an hour. We would release one. It would start as sort of some like minimal fee, like 0.01 Ethereum, something around there. And there'd be this Dutch auction where like sort of the price goes down. It's like, if you were familiar with CryptoKitties, the auction style was quite similar to that, but it's like quite different to what we see in the NFT world today. And most mintings today are sort of just, one flat price, 10,000 items, 0.05 per item. But so for us, it was gradually being released over time. And whoever sort of was the first to claim that one would be the one that went and got it, basically. And the additional items, that sort of why we're up to 5,000 today, is because people took what are those generation 0 fighters. So the ones we minted are generation zeros. Okay. And sort of the absolute hard cap on those was 25,000. Like even if we wanted to create more than them, we couldn't, because that was a hard cap in the contract. In reality, we stopped minting way earlier, basically. We didn't get anywhere near that number. And yeah, the reason we ended up on 5,000, which is not even 5,000, it's like 4,953, around that number. And the reason for that is just because a few weeks ago, we decided to turn off the battle smart contract. Yep. Basically, new fighters can be minted if you win a battle. Yep. So generation 1, generation 2, and that's sort of the other 3,000 fighters that were created. And we turned off the battle contract because the community was basically saying, we don't want there to be millions of fighters like you have in CryptoKitties. It will completely devalue the sort of the existing fighters that exist. And also the prices for battles right now are insane. If we turned it on, it might well be like $1,000 a battle, which doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, that's how we ended up on 5,000 and why we're not creating anymore.
I love the 5,000 number, because in the modern world, well, in 2021, it's the 10,000 number, it's the 8,000, but the 5,000 is just so rare. You get what I'm saying? Compared to a lot of these other parabolic projects, are big name projects. It's like, wow, 5,000. And that's what makes it so unique to me. But I do want to know, because we talked a little bit about the battles, how do you personally value battle experience and battle wins with fighters compared to fighters with no battle experience at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. You mean in terms of like the value of these fighters?
Yeah, in terms of personal value, because everybody's going to have their own subjective value. So I guess I'm just asking you a personal question.
Yeah, so personally, yeah, because they've sort of been tarnished. If they've been battled, it's like they're no longer in mint condition anymore. So in that sense, someone that's battled is sort of less valuable. But on the other hand, if it's a fighter that has then gone and won a lot of battles, well, that's a valuable fighter. And if you look at the stats for the fighters, if you have been in a lot of battles, you've gained experience and your stats are much higher than a fighter that's never battled. So in terms of I think personally, there's certain fighters where you have they've fought they've won the most battles. They've won 250 battles or so. So one like that, I would rank them as one of the most valuable crypto fighters if it ranks really high on battles, even if its genes aren't super good. But if it's a fighter where it's won, it's had 9 battles, it's won 5 of them, doesn't have great genes, then I'd be I wouldn't look at it as anything special, basically.
Okay. And I guess I took my own opinions on that as well, because I love what you said. Thank you for that response. But when I was looking for what fighter I want to acquire, is the way my mindset behind it. This is called crypto fighters. You know, it's not crypto whatever. So to me, it's the fighters with the most wins gets the glory. The fighters who have very high win percentage and a lot of wins gets the glory. So I did go ahead and get the most win mage in the game at the time, because I'm like,
Wow.
one, mages are already rare. They're most rare outside of Death Knights. And this mage has the most win. He had like 240 wins. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I'm like, this dude is clearly battle tested. He's a fighter. It's called crypto fighters. So I'd rather have a guy who's technically the strongest fighter in his class, even though it's not as rare as other fighters. So I think it's going to be very interesting moving forward how people place value on fresh ones compared to battle proven ones. And then there's some who's been in a whole bunch of battles and they won nothing. So it's like, okay, that might be a little unique also.
But that a fighter with 240 wins is awesome. Like I would, like, if I saw that on the market, I would jump on him immediately.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely.
I placed the offer on all the strongest fighters. The one with the most wins, second most wins, third most wins, and I was like, the guy accepted my offer on the mage. I'm like, man, I got to steal, and he doesn't even know it.
It's hard to know because it doesn't like pop out, and it's like you've got to go into the stats, and that's another part of it. It's like so much of it is dependent on what OpenSea shows. But if the data sort of like displayed a bit differently and was like, if it became more clear, wow, this fighter has 240 wins. That definitely puts it up there as one of the most valuable fighters.
But I also think that's what makes it unique as well too, because I kind of had to go in and dive in and do some research on the project and understand, okay, these are the fighters with the most wins, you know. So it added more of a gamified version for me. So it wasn't kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna buy this NFT because it's popular, but it's more so I'm going real deep because of course there's the character classes that are rare. Then there's the outfits and the weapons and all that good stuff. So it kind of makes a real collector and somebody who's actually interested in it makes them work. And I think for me, that's the most fun part about it, that I know before the masses know that this 241 fighter is going to be proven, because I did the work by actually going in and searching through all the categories one by one and kind of putting my own things together. I tried to use super rare. It was pretty confusing. So I just kind of made my own analysis on that.
Yeah, in terms of sort of next steps of where we go with the project, it's still like quite unclear on our end. But obviously, if the sort of we bring back battles on layer 2, then like the fighter you're holding, it's not just that he has 241 wins. He also, his stats are going to be really good. Like his strength is like, if he's won that many battles, his strength, might be 20 or something compared to a Death Knight who only has strength 10. So he's going to be like a really strong fighter if we ever do bring back battles on layer 2.
Okay. So how do you feel about the current state of the project, and do you feel pressure to kind of bring back layer 2?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we obviously like it, I guess we see it as our baby. We want the project to succeed, whatever happens. Any decisions we do make, we're always looking to sort of keep the value of the original collection. So we're not going to be expanding the original collection. But if we have sort of layer 2s, we would want to reward people that are battling. So it might be there's another token where you get rewarded for that, or there'll be like a 2021 edition of fighters, but sort of the original set will always remain the original set. So, the early investors and collectors, that always, whatever we do would only add value to that original set, not detract from it. In terms of where we're going, it's a good question, because it's not a project we've been active on like for the time. It's a 3-4-year-old project, one of the original NFTs. And so a lot, as I mentioned, a lot of the team members are no longer active on it at all. They did like the few days a week I'm now able to put into it because my schedule is more flexible. The other team members, they just can't put any time into it. So in terms of where we go next steps, it could just be like sort of this project remains in the state it is. It could be that we eventually find the time, resources to go and like sort of build these next level games. And behind the scenes, there's also talks of investment and seeing where we take the project. There's a lot up in the air. What I'm sort of personally, I don't want to overcommit to anyone. Sort of, I've been very careful not to say, we're going to like sort of have this 10-step roadmap on our Discord, because we don't want to sort of overpromise and then under-deliver. Anything we do like sort of, we want to over-deliver on anything we say.
Gotcha.
So right now there's a lot open in the air.
Love it.
But
Love it.
like our official stance is like sort of what you see right now, that's what there is. There is no official roadmap moving forward, but we're definitely thinking about things on our end.
Love it. One thing I would say that for me, if the project stayed just as it is, I'm perfectly fine with that because one, it's a part of history. You know, it's an
Right.
early innovating project. 10 years down the line, this project would be, you know, be studied or ultimately for what it is. But I think in the NFT community, the biggest thing is community. You know, how I said NFT community, the biggest thing is community. The biggest thing is how do we build that community for passionate collectors and passionate people getting into this community to ultimately do things like this. I'm very grateful for you coming on to do this and giving me and the rest of the community another opportunity and a chance to learn about the project. So whatever you guys do, I just want to leave in the back of your mind, community should be a big focus on that as well, because with a strong community, doesn't matter what the price is or the dips or whatever it is, people will be very passionate about it. And as long as people are passionate about something, it's going to go a very long way. So thank you for that insight. And before we get off this thing, I do want to talk about rarities and different things. What is more rare? Technically speaking, because there's two different sides I've been seeing on the Discord and Twitter and all that good stuff was and we had a Twitter Spaces yesterday, and we were talking about the Death Knights or 11 trait characters. Which one would you value more, having a Death Knight or 11 trait character?
Yeah, to me, definitely the Death Knights win by a long way. The 11 trait character, I think that just started basically when we listed on Rarity Tools for like 2-3 weeks ago. And so one of the things they started ranking, like even like sort of number one, was the number of genes a fighter has. But like sort of the reality of it is every fighter has every gene. How we built the site originally, like we decided we're only going to display names for sort of some of the rarer genes, but for like the super common genes, we won't even give a name or list it on the site.
Yeah.
So every fighter has a weapon, even if it doesn't say a weapon for them. But every fighter has eyes or like a body color or whatever it is, or even things like background. We didn't used to list; it was just sort of a visual. And then recently we added it, so it became visible. So to me, sort of the 11 gene item, I guess if you have 11 genes, it means you have 11 somewhat rare genes. But to me, it's like it's not like massively interesting. I'm like a lot more interested. Like, oh, that guy's got golden skin. He's got a golden background. He's got like Moon Order plus like armor or weapon or whatever it is. To me personally, that those are like the really cool items. And that someone happens to have like a lot of like common genes, but 11 of them is personally I find it less interesting. But it's up to the community to decide like sort of how it ranks different things. There's no each fighter is unique. And you can argue for anyone.
Yeah, and everybody has their own subjective opinion as well.
Right.
Something you said that was interesting was I also placed a lot of value in the golden fighters on golden backgrounds Gen 0. Would you say those particular fighters would be some of the most rarest fighters in the game, the gold on gold Gen 0?
Yeah, definitely. It's also that's like sort of an easy one to see visually. Yeah, visually it's like very easy to see sort of the gold on gold fighters. But things like the Moon Order plus weapon is also extremely rare. Here I can see it's under 1%. So it's like I don't know, if I'm looking at the half elf, it's like this staff with like a blue diamond on the top. Yeah. So it's like you have a bunch of those rares. That's also what happens sort of because certain people realize certain items are rarer. So the ones that say the golden fighters, they're still very rare. I think here it's like 3% or something. Golden background is 2.7% and gold. Don't even see. Oh, golden is 3.5%. So the people sort of in the battles, what they do is they would take their golden fighters and they would use them for battles. So it might have been at the beginning, golden skin was just as rare as like the Moon Order plus weapon. But people thought, oh, golden background, I want to create more of those. So they put those guys into battle. So they're still rare, but slightly more golden Harvel, let's say, than like the Moon Order plus weapon.
So you could only so gold fighters were created by gold on gold fighters, basically.
It doesn't have to be gold on gold. Sort of the background is sort of like a gene on its own, and the skin color is a gene on its own. But yeah, how it works, we never sort of revealed that. The smart contract for battles, like how the gene mixing mechanism, that was sort of hidden. It's on the blockchain. There's a smart contract for it, but you can't sort of read the code and the logic for it, or not like easily. You'd have to sort of like reverse engineer it. So yeah, but in short, like sort of the ideas there are like that each, like in a battle, you could place 5 on 5 basically, and each team had a leader. And the new fighter that was created was basically a mix of the genes of the 2 leaders. So if you had like a gold fighter fighting a gold fighter, I'm not sure if it was guaranteed, but it basically meant like either guaranteed or very high chance that the created fighter would be a gold fighter as well.
Wow, the rabbit hole gets deeper. So
yeah, there's this whole gene mechanics world. Like, yeah, I guess the battles don't exist right now, but there's a lot that goes on there. Like, maybe I'll send it to you afterwards. But you sort of, each fighter has its own genes, which is just sort of a whole bunch of letters and numbers. And if you take like 2 of those genes, letters and numbers, mix them together, you create like a new fighter, which sort of has new random genes, and that created basically the newly created fighter was sort of a mix of its 2 parents, I guess.
But there's no guarantee that your goat fighter was going against another goat fighter.
Right. So how it would work is you could put your team into the arena, and then once it's in the, that's one transaction. And then once it's in the arena, anyone could decide, I'm going to go fight this team.
Okay.
So you could, let's say, guarantee you'd only fight, if you're the one attacking basically a team in the arena, you could guarantee. But a lot of the time, there wouldn't be a gold team in the arena. So you might have your own fighter, but you can't guarantee the other team is sort of has a gold fighter on it.
Does every character start off the same as far as stats, or does gold fighters automatically start off like newly minted gold fighters start off stronger than newly minted regular fighters in a sense of their abilities?
Yeah, so from what I remember, there's no connection between sort of genes and strength. For example, they're 2 like sort of different categories.
Okay.
One is just the genes were just completely visual. Even things like weapons, I don't think they had an impact. It was just a stat. So like strength, vitality, dexterity, and luck. Those were the items that had an impact on your chances of winning in a battle. And then when you won or lost a battle, those started to go up, but your genes would always remain the same.
Beautiful. Man, this is a whole rabbit hole in itself. This was beautiful. I wish we had more time. But Ellie, thank you so much for helping us understand more about this beautiful project that you have in your hands here. I do wish this project tons of success. What you have created is absolutely amazing. You and your team, of course.
Yeah, definitely like thankful for the awesome community we have behind us. Some of the people in this community, I mean, people have joined in the sort of the last few months, but some of the community members have been around for 4 years. So we have people like, we started Telegram group December 2017. Like people, the first 10 people in that Telegram group, I think Keith is one of them. If he's watching this, give a shout out to him. But like people like him have been here basically from day one. They, they bought, 2018 when NFTs were like almost nothing, and, have held the NFTs over those last 4 years and continue to support us. And they're still back in the community now 4 years later, sort of when NFTs have blown up again.
Wow.
So yeah, big thank you to yourself and everyone else in the community that supported the project.
Yeah, awesome. Of course.